Good evening and welcome to TABIA Network, the African voice in America. You're watching the Lewis Report. I am Lewis. And in case you're wondering, I got my report right here and I'm ready to go. Are you ready? Let's do this. So Africans are leaving in droves to Europe. At least that's what they are attempting to do. They're going across the Mediterranean. About 60,000 Africans, not Africans, but migrants, have been rescued since the beginning of this year up to now. About 60,000 of them. About 1,865 have died. About 1,865 have died in the Mediterranean. What is happening right now? What is going on? Africans would rather die, would rather lose their lives crossing the Mediterranean with just rubber boats. Thousands of Africans and people from the Middle East would rather be packed like sardines in these rubber boats trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe rather than stay in their countries. And Nigerian authorities are saying that about 80,000 to 120,000 more migrants will leave sub-Saharan Africa this year alone and would attempt to get into Europe. So for those who are leaving from sub-Sahara, they even have it worse because they have to first cross the Sahara Desert. And we all know how turbulent that desert is. They have to cross the Sahara Desert first before they can get to Libya. And in Libya, there are hundreds of militant organizations fighting each other in Libya. So they have to cross first the Sahara Desert. They have to get past thieves, militants, the desert itself, thirst, hunger. They have to pass that to get to Libya, where militants are fighting each other. And they have to get through that and then onto the Mediterranean in these little boats. Sometimes just rubber boats or fishing, just a fishing boat trying to cross into Europe. So they even have it worse. Very recently, it was discovered that 18 bodies of migrants trying to cross the Sahara Desert were discovered in Niger. 18 bodies. That was just recently. And then many more were found just a day after, or a couple of days after, I should say. 30 more found. So 48 so far found. 48 so far have been found in the Sahara Desert, succumbing to dehydration. How about those that were kidnapped by militants or smugglers? How about those that were kidnapped by traffickers? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But these people, people will rather suffer that than stay in their respective countries. The UN is, the UN's migration organization is encouraging, leaders around the world to talk about this issue. To talk about this issue of crossing from West Africa, mainly in Central Africa, crossing the Sahara Desert into North Africa, Libya mostly, to try and get into Europe. There are no rescue missions as there is in the Mediterranean. So nobody knows what's really going on in the Sahara Desert. Nobody knows how many lives are being lost in the Sahara Desert. Nobody knows that figure. Why are Africans leaving? Why are Africans leaving their respective countries? Why do they want to leave? I grew up in Ghana, and I could remember that while growing up, all I could think of is how I'm going to get into some other country, into some European country. Mainly I was thinking of America. How do I get into America? Not Europe, but America. And I was not alone. Several of the kids I grew up with had dreams of going to another country, of leaving the entire continent of Africa to somewhere Europe or America. This is the dream of the African child, not to grow in his own country and develop his own country, but to leave. Why? But to leave Africa. Why? One, oppression, poverty. In Ghana, for instance, there is not as much oppression, but there is poverty. You turn on the TV, if you're lucky to have one, and then you find out somebody's living a better life outside. There's greener pasture. So you want to leave. You want to leave. Even those of us who had it okay, we wanted to leave. How about those who live in the rural areas? Those who live in areas where there is no electricity, where there is no food because there are no roads to get there. How about those people? What should they do? You know they yearn to get out of the country. Poverty and oppression. Oppression in Eritrea. It had just been discovered that about 5,000 Eritreans leave every week. 5,000 leave trying to get to somewhere, anywhere other than Eritrea because the government is oppressive. Any form of dissent will get you arrested, tortured, or killed, or all of it. That is what's happening in Eritrea. You cannot protest, you cannot speak your mind, you cannot do anything. You cannot. So forget about all the genocide that we've been hearing of. You know, going from old Burundi to Rwanda to Uganda. All these, forget those. People are hungry. And governments are oppressing people. So they are trying to leave. They're trying to get out of Africa. They just want to go somewhere, anywhere but here. They want to leave anywhere but where they are. They want to just get to somewhere. Militants with their own agenda, their religious agenda, come in to force people to do what they want. Why? And governments are sitting around watching this. Some governments are even condoning this. Why? Your religion is your religion. Enjoy. Don't force it on anybody else. But no. So these conditions are causing Africans to leave Africa. And the conditions under which they're living, they're traveling through the Sahara Desert. Everybody knows what happens on that vast land of dry sand. Nothing there but thirst, thieves, killers. Killers. Okay, there's some numbers floating around. About 1,800 or so people is the number that they're given for the people that have died. About, actually, let's see, 1,790, so about 1,800 people. A group called the Fortress Europe, they track these. And IOM, the International Organization for Migration, I should say. That's the UN organization. They quoted these people who have said 1,790 people have died since 1996. And that is only what people could track. Look at how vast the Sahara is. So no, that's not a real value. That is not a real value. But people will rather leave. They would rather leave than stay under these conditions. Power. Government's hunger for power. People's hunger for power It's causing oppression. Look at Egypt. They just became a democracy. And just now, El-Sisi has also been condemned in dissent. Any form of protest, you'll be arrested. I guess that's how you stabilize the country that has gone through several protest revolutions. But this is a democracy now. Today, or shall I say on June 17th, the Egyptian government released about 165 people that were incarcerated for protesting, which is a good step. But this is a democracy. People have the right to protest. They have the right to protest whatever they don't like. So these conditions that people live in under in Africa, so many dictatorships. Look at Zimbabwe. Look at Zimbabwe. Almost 80% of the country have no jobs. What are they doing? They have no jobs. So of course they want to leave the country. We've had one guy in power since what, 75? Somewhere there. One guy in power. And he says, I'm not going to leave. Because the younger generation don't respect what I did for them. Because I fought for independence. Mugabe wants to stay forever. These are the things that are causing Africans to leave Africa. And dying on the Sahara Desert. And dying in the Mediterranean. Every day, in and out. Every day in and day out, you hear this. A rubber boat has capsized. Migrants being rescued. At one point, 800 migrants died. 800 of them just died. When the rescue boat that came to help them, the ship that came to rescue them, hit their boat. They died. And they were found. It was found that several of these, hundreds of them, were packed below deck like sardines. They couldn't breathe. These are the conditions that Africans are leaving Africa in. And when they get to Europe, what happens? Nobody knows their fate when they get to Europe. Nobody. They are faced with xenophobia. They are faced with illegal immigration laws. They wind up sleeping outside in the cold, weather they're not used to. They wind up sleeping there. This is what's happening. They get to Europe and then they suffer in Europe. They suffer in Europe, but they'd rather be there than in anywhere in Africa. Okay, think about it. In Rome, a small town in Rome, several people in that community laid siege to a building holding immigrants. They laid siege to a building holding immigrants. Why? They threw stones, they set fire to this building. Because they are afraid of these people. They're new to them. They blame them for everything. From rape to crimes to dirtying their town. None of these have been proven. But this is the conditions that Africans face when they leave and go to European countries. But they don't know. Or even if they know, they don't care. They would rather leave. Look at what just happened recently. An 8-year-old was found in a suitcase trying to cross into Italy. I believe it was a 19-year-old woman with a suitcase with an 8-year-old in it. Whatever they can do to get out of Africa, they are doing to get out of Africa. Because of conditions, poverty. Nigeria has 170 million people. 70% of them living below the poverty line. The country is rich with oil. Why? Okay, African leaders. The world is tired of solving your problems. They are tired of your greed. They are tired of your greed for power. You're hurting your people. They're hungry. They're thirsty for democracy. They're thirsty for the freedom to do what they wish to do with themselves. They're thirsty. They want to be able to speak out. So take some of the money, Nigeria, and save your people. Take some of the money. Africa has so many riches, minerals, fertile soil. Forget, somewhere in the desert you can say, hey, no. West Africa has several rainforests. Things grow there. Things do grow. Food do grow. Why are you hungry? Africans export so much food outside. So why are you hungry? This will bring us to today's edition of the Lewis Report. Go and tell your governments it's time to change. It is time to let your people stay home. Education, educate them so they can get better jobs when they finish school. Then create the jobs, help create the jobs. Encourage the private sector. This is the end of today's show. And as always, let justice prevail, though the heavens fall. Thank you.